live! How exciting, everybody who's out there watching. I am at Doc Foreman. I know we have some folks following along from the hashtag SPSM, but we also have folks following the hashtag Text Talk Act. I'm at Doc Foreman, and if you have any questions, if you'll tweet them out to the hashtag Text Talk Act, we will make sure to get to you soon. I am really excited because today we have several people here to talk with you about the use of social media and mental health advocacy, and about a very special multimedia texting program that was used to start a national conversation about mental health. I am very excited today to introduce you all to Sue McCormick. And Sue, I'm pulling you up on screen now.
Hello.
Hi. Sue, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do? I know we have some folks following along from the hashtag SPSM, but we also have folks following the hashtag
Something is happening, like feedback or something.
You have a little bit of a lag, but it will be okay. Go ahead and hit your screen share button and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so, well, first I had to turn off the YouTube because I'm getting feedback. I have to tell you, I have a cold, I've got tea, so if I cough, that's what's going on. So I have spent my career, my life's work is about bringing people together for conversations that lead to change in their communities. And for this past year, I've had the opportunity to participate in Text Talk and Act and creating community solutions, which is part of the National Dialogue on Mental Health. And I am the person that people all around the country can call if they have a question or they want to have some advice or help if they want to bring their community together to talk about mental health. So that's who I am. And I am going to share something with you guys so I can tell you a little bit about what Text Talk Act is. April, you're going to let me know if this is going okay.
You are doing great, Sue. And for those of you who want to know, you can get Sue on Twitter as at Sue A. McCormick, and she's lovely. You can also find them on the Text Talk Act Facebook page.
Okay.
And she's pulling the screen share up. Look at this. You all should know out there in social media verse that this is like Sue's first time doing this, and she's already like sharing screens and showing slides, because Sue is pretty much a badass.
A badass with a bad voice. So let's see if you guys can hear it. So Text Talk and Act, it was the brainchild of my colleague Matt Leininger, because we knew we wanted a lot of people to participate in this national conversation. You know, as you guys know, often mental illness shows up in young people, and so we weren't sure how to pull it off. And Matt came up with this really cool idea that combines social media and texting and face-to-face dialogue. And I just found out 2 minutes before the call that we had people doing Text Talk Act in all 50 states, which I am totally psyched about. And we had a really ethnically diverse group of people. We had lots and lots of activity on Twitter and social media, and we also had thousands of people in face-to-face dialogues. And it's really cool because the outcomes are what we were hoping for. People who participated said they understand mental health and mental illness better. They feel more comfortable talking about mental health, and people really loved participating in Text Talk and Act. And here are just a couple of things that people said when they answered a survey. What they really like about it, they love.
I'm just going to put you on just a little pause. You've got, I don't think you have your slides up, like the slideshow the way that we practice, where they're in a whole view. Did you want to do that before you went on?
Yes,
and showed the
I did. So I'm looking at my slideshow. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and let me try this again.
So, and I'm going to let you do that. I'm just going to take you off the main screen while you sort that out. So this is what I like about this. We're going to have Tim later on the show, who is actually the most experienced live vlogger here. But what I want to really say, because some of the folks who are watching this are millennials, and so for them, you know, like problem solving and doing all of this while live is sort of a natural skill. But for some of us for whom this technology is sort of new to our world as of like 5 years ago and are mid or later in our careers, it is like elf magic. And it takes us just a second to sort it out. And so I'm really grateful to Sue and people who are willing to do things for the first time. And there's Sue. She's got me on screen. And she's doing screen sharing. There, look at her. She's got it down. Wazam! You did it.
So this is where I was. Can you all see this? These are some things that participants said. People love Text Talk and Act. It is easy. They can do it in their dorm room. They can do it any time of day or night. And they just really felt like it was a great platform that actually led to some really meaningful conversations. So it's a nice combination, again, of that tweeting and kind of what we call thin engagement of social media with the thicker engagement of having a conversation. And I just thought it would be fun to share some ideas that people shared when we asked them, you know, what kind of actions do you want to take? We got some really wonderful ideas. And these ideas had a lot to do with creativity, a lot of social media, content creation, a lot of learning, people saying they were going to school, and advocacy as well. One person said they're starting a line of greeting cards that are going to help people be comforted. I mean, there's just all kinds of really cool ideas that came out. And I'm just going to keep going here. This person is going for policy advocacy. And I also wanted to share some really personal comments. You know, the second round of Text Talk and Act, we asked people to ask, listen, and act. This was really about how do you help a friend in need. And I spent a day reading through over 360 comments, and by the end of it, I just felt so really moved because there was so much heartfelt kindness in these. You know, it was the opposite of how we think about maybe cynical hipster millennials. And these really represented some amazing values like patience and courage and kindness and things like that. So those are just some of the ideas that came out. And I just hope that we can keep it going. I'm going to turn it back over to April now. I'm going to try to figure out how to stop sharing the screen, but we did put together a whole bunch of resources for people who do want to take action, and so there's lots of things you can do there if you want to. Okay, I'm going to stop screen sharing now. I think I did it. Anyway, if people want to act, we have lots of resources and ways for them to do that. So that's just a little sampling of what Text Talk and Act is about.
So I want to let you know that Sue has put together resources for you. So if you're really interested in how the Text Talk Act program works and in resources for when they do events like this again, in the links down below, there are wonderful resources about Text Talk Act, and you can learn more about it. And if you have any questions, you can find Sue on Twitter as @SueA.McCormick, and you can, of course, find Text Talk Act on Facebook. These are wonderful people. They will happily answer your questions and interact with you about that. Right, Sue?
Yes.
And so I'm really excited now about the next person we have to talk with us today. This gentleman has a regular live vlog where he talks about all things Lady Gaga, which Lady Gaga has really done a lot for mental health advocacy. She's used her visibility to do good things. And Tim, who is one of her fans, is no exception. And so I'm bringing on Tim Cox.
Hi.
So, Tim, tell us a little bit about who you are in the social media verse and how people can find you.
Well, you can find me on really any social network with the username TimXOC. And in the social media universe, I'm a big figure really only in the Lady Gaga community. Hopefully that'll change someday and be more all pop stars. But every week I do a show that talks about Gaga, and then at the end of the show we ask our guests to talk about something that matters to them or that's been affecting them in their daily life so that we can help them on the show and hopefully help people who are watching who also struggle with it.
So why did you decide to do that? I mean, that's very personal. Why do it?
Because I've been through a lot of stuff myself, and I know that, I mean, even before Text Talk Act, I knew there wasn't enough discussion on mental illness and mental health. And I felt like if I would have had this, what I do now for other people, if somebody would have been doing this type of thing when I was in school, it would have helped me through my own struggles. And I think that if you know what it's like to suffer from mental illness, you have to take this role of helping other people through it if you've been able to get through it yourself.
What do you think? What do you think is the magic? What's the secret sauce? What do you do that really benefits people?
It's just talking about what's not being talked about. I mean, every episode of my show, someone almost cries at the end because we've covered suicide attempts and depression, eating disorders, child molestation, all kinds of crazy topics that you just don't hear about, and we put them in an environment where we're talking about something that everyone is interested in if they're watching. If you like Gaga, you're watching. But at the end, we connect to you on a human basis. And it's that humanity that brings people together. It's not Gaga. She just helps.
This is something I have a really hard time sort of explaining to some of my colleagues who are a little bit later career, that people want to talk about these issues more than we think, and that if you just simply give people an opportunity, they're going to have conversations, and they've just been waiting for a chance to have this conversation, right?
Definitely.
So how did you hear about Text Talk Act, and how did you participate in it?
It was actually the day before Text Talk Act. One of the people who watched my show came to me and said, "Are you guys doing anything with this? Are you doing this on the show tomorrow?" And I said, wait. Doing what? And I got all of the information. I went to the website, I signed up, and here I am now. The next day we used Twitter, Facebook, and Gaga's social network to spread the message of Text Talk Act and how you could get involved. And we wanted to get as many groups involved before the show as possible, so that we would be able to have people already knowing what we were getting into once the show started.
So you've already gone faster than most of the folks who are at my stage in my career can about how social media works. And so I'm going to just switch screens, but I'll come right back to you. So very, very briefly, we realize we have a couple media. We have a couple of audiences for this media. We're hoping that we're talking to some of you millennials who regularly do watch vlogs and sort of understand everything that Tim said. But we're also wanting to talk with some of our mental health leadership and folks who are interested in having and sponsoring more of these conversations. Tim, can I get you to specifically speak to the strategy behind it, and sort of if you were explaining it to somebody who's like me, is kind of old, like saying, this is like when you tell me, Tim Cox, this is who I can tell and how I figure out who to tell and why it makes a difference. Can you sort of explain how that works?
I'm a little confused. Could you read the question?
So somebody asks you, they know that you do a weekly show, and somebody says, do you know what this is? And then you identify people to alert. Because what most folks my age don't know about social media is your audience is not passive, they're active, and your audience has their own audiences. And so you identified actually several stakeholders, and you sort of get a posse together, basically.
Yes, our largest following, even though the show is on YouTube, isn't on YouTube. Our largest following is on Twitter. So I kind of looked at it as each of our social media platforms is a group in itself. Twitter, Facebook, littlemonsters.com. And then I also know for a fact of at least 4 different really large groups that watch the show every week together. There's a group that's in college in New York. There's a group of cancer survivors in Pakistan, along with Gaga's team, and I can't remember the 4th one I was thinking of earlier. But in the past year, I've known of these huge groups that watch the show every week, so I can be in contact with them without having to be live on the show. That's how I was able to use social media to get people involved earlier in the day, way before the show started at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
So let's hold the phone.
On the show.
Cancer survivors in Pakistan.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, we had
No, I'm cool with this because I understand, because I have a primary care in Manila community. Like, let's explain about how social media brings people together in unlikely ways. How can you explain to us old folks how it is that you are reaching cancer survivors in Pakistan? Like, how does that work? So you and I understand the logic of that, but can you sort of spell it out?
Well, it all really starts with the Gaga community, because Gaga fans are everywhere in the world. So I had a cancer survivor on my show who was from Pakistan, and he told me that he was going to the mall. He was in the mall, and this group of people came up to him and said, "We saw you on Radio Art Pop. We saw you talk about your life with cancer, and we just wanted to tell you that we're a recovering group. We're all going through it. We all watch the show every week." And I'm lucky that Gaga has such a large community across the world, because through the people who watch my show for her, I get to say, hey, here's other stuff you should think about besides Gaga.
So I really want to thank you for being with us, Tim, and we're going to come back to you probably as we go, and I hope that you'll chime in. But one of the really important things that Tim is really telling us about Text Talk Act is that there are people who connect personally with shared interests, and so that they also I mean, what you're basically telling us, Tim, is that they have the shared interest in Lady Gaga, but then they connect on a human level, and there's this mental health conversation that they really want to have.
Definitely.
And it is simply because you know that, because of how networks, I'm covering up my face, but because of how networks work, you were able to reach people, and they don't come because somebody said we need to advocate about mental health now. They come because of their relationship with you, and then the mental health conversation happens.
Exactly.
And so Text Talk Act provides a vehicle for that, and then it takes advantage of your natural network that you already have.
Absolutely, and I think that any group could do that online. I think that in every little community of people, there are people who want to be having this discussion, and they just don't know that they can.
So there are people who want to have it and just don't know that they can.
Exactly.
And this is the takeaway for the old fogies, right? For the folks my age, right?
Yes.
Because we, by the way, I want you to know, Tim, the conversations at our level is that nobody wants to have the conversation. It's stigma, and nobody wants to have it. And the truth is, everyone's dying to have this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I'm here.
And so I want to bring some other folks on today. We have Shaquita Ogletree and Jennifer Wilds, who are mental health leaders in Georgia in various organizations. They are like me and like Sue. We're all older, and we're digital immigrants. Like, I remember when the internet was born, because I'm old. And they're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be an early adopter of using technology to have mental health conversations that change the world. And they're going to be like me, where it feels, you know, we're sort of at that boundary of comfort. And they're going to tell us a little bit more about their experiences. Shaquita and Jennifer.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and who you represent.
All right, so I'm Shaquita, and I work for an agency called the Multi-Agency Alliance for Children, also known as MAC for those who don't want to say the long name. And I work with a group of advocates, young adults that have experience with foster care system and with the mental health system. A group called Georgia Empowerment. It's my Twitter handle at Georgia Empowerment. And so that's how I got involved, and I am just new in the scene of mental health, have always been a youth advocate. And so Jennifer here, you know, she's one of our partners and one of our stakeholders, and I just thought she'd be so best to bring on board to also share the young people she worked with as well, and see how we can get this technology moving here in Georgia. Like Tim, we can start as a group like Lady Gaga. I know, let's talk to Tim, get him in Georgia. Yes.
Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I work for an agency called Viewpoint Health, and we provide all sorts of services, all the way from individual therapy all the way up to crisis stabilization, every level of support and for youth as well as adults with mental health diagnoses, substance abuse disorders, and developmental disabilities. So crisis stabilization units, residential programs, again, all outpatient treatment, things like that. And we didn't have an opportunity to speak about it right before, but I also do some work here in Georgia in suicide prevention as well. So I'm going to be following you. I'm going to be looking for you.
So, you know, when we were prepping for the show, you're saying, you know, these are some of the first kinds of events that you've done, and you've chosen to be early adopters of this technology, and it was not a low anxiety item, right, for you guys?
Right. We're feeling a little better about it now, but yes.
It's all the emotional abuse I give you prior, right? So tell us a little bit about how you became aware of Text Talk Act and why you chose to be involved, even though this is not your natural habitat. You're not millennials. You didn't grow up doing this.
Yes, and I think I am a millennium. I'm still young. I think I am. Yeah. Yeah. I do all of it, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I do all of it. Email, you know, most people don't read their emails on a Friday evening, but I read my email and saw this Talk, Text, and Act challenge, and I'm always trying to get our young people to do some kind of engagement activity. And so this happened to be one of them. I was just like, we need to do it. And you know, the weekend, you forget about things over the weekend, promotions. But that Monday, we went and we ran with it, put it out to our network. We have over 800 young people we've engaged with over the past year, and we also have different partners across the state of Georgia. And so I love that it was through texting, and then we can kind of like promote it through social media because, you know, young people have their cell phones with them during class and during school time. And so we kind of just like one by one was texting people, join, get on and use our hashtag and use our code. And I was so surprised that we actually got people doing it, but the response back was like, we need to do more of this.
This is excellent. So, I mean, you're really saying that you understand the population you serve and you're looking for ways. And so you were just waiting for someone to give you a vehicle that makes sense for the youth that you're taking care of.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Like, what happened? How did they respond?
Well, first, you know, they are really inquisitive. What is this? What is this? Do we get paid for this? And so, you know, I was, you know, so just putting out with our leaders. We have leaders across the state of young people who have groups in their regions. We have their regions, and just having them send it out to their network and send it out to their adult supporters. Having adult supporters with the young people to help them do it was really awesome. Young people came back, you know, it was fun for them. You know, they had some really great questions. It was really thought-provoking, made them think about things. Some of them who they don't identify them as having a mental health problem, they start thinking, hey, I think this can relate to me as well, and not just my brother or sister. And so it's awesome that it wasn't just, it wasn't a silo. It was a lot of people. We had our staff members participating as well. It was just a lot of different group members participating. So they really enjoyed it. We have so many people who are passionate about mental health in Georgia because of the oversight of medication here in Georgia. So it was really, really exciting.
So tell me a little bit about some of the themes that you noticed. When you were watching your youth participate, what were some of the themes that you noticed in their responses to this project?
They were really inquisitive of how long did it last. And so, you know, a lot of them were in school when we first started, when we rolled it out at, like, I think 1 o'clock in the afternoon we rolled it out. A lot of them were in school. What I noticed that, you know, they really went through the whole thing. We went through the whole process of it, and it was great response. And that they also reached out to other friends and was writing down questions and asking questions to them. And I noticed that a lot of our older youth, because we serve much older youth, we serve young people up to the age of 26. A lot of them started calling in and wanting to get assistance and figuring out how can they get their Medicaid and go see a therapist, because it wasn't stigma. It wasn't stigmatized anymore. And so they were really seeking out help, you know, from this. And so this is now, I think, before it's always been a priority, but mental health now is definitely a big priority in Georgia.
Okay, so one of the things you're saying happened is that they were waiting for a chance to have this conversation, and then they had things to ask for, and all they needed was a way to ask for them that made sense for them. And the technology is sort of a vehicle for that, right?
Yes.
So what?
The next act too, like you were saying before.
So tell us more, like, what did you notice that they said, or what kinds of comments did you notice that they had? Like, what did you learn from them while they were participating?
I don't know, since we were all spread across, I don't know what I learned from them while they were participating, because I participated with a group of adults.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. I didn't mean, I think I may have thrown you a curveball. Everybody, this is totally my fault. What are some of your final thoughts if you were going to be talking with other mental health leadership, folks who are more established in their careers like you all across the country, who are anxious about technology or anxious about using these kinds of programs? What bits of wisdom, now having done this, would you want to share?
Well, for me, I think initially getting more young people involved, and so that's why I reached out to Jennifer, because she works with all these young people in Georgia from different populations. You know, our population is so small with the foster care youth, and it's such a small population in Georgia, but when you talk about the whole state of Georgia, Jennifer definitely has a much larger lens. And so I wonder, what do you think about it?
I love that.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about something you said before conversation. I think the way Tim's doing it is great. Find a common interest. But one thing I said to Shaquita while he was talking too, he's really opened up this space where people feel safe. And they really feel like he's listening to them and feel like they're a part of that group, and they feel that it's a very safe space. So I think that's really critical. And you know, texting right now is the thing. I think we always have to be on the lookout for what's next also, you know, because as MySpace is over, there's something to take its place, and then it goes to Facebook and Twitter, and you know we're way past that now. So, and it all is happening very, very rapidly. So I think that you just really have to always keep up, get kids involved, so that they can, like Shaquita was saying too, they got their friends involved. Yeah. When they saw a purpose and a value in it. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen MySpace since 2005.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if we're still thinking along those lines of MySpace, we've missed the mark. So we need to get that and that next thing.
You know, in mental health, we're still having that conversation, aren't we, Julie and Shaquita? Like a lot of the leadership, like, is text messaging okay? Or that internet is a really great idea. Like. And in fact, you know, what Tim is trying to tell us is, you know, we've moved on to folks creating their own content, including regular shows and things that people watch, and their own networks and communities. And if we agree to start participating, my experience is, and I don't know what you think, Shaquita and Julie, about this, but my experience is that when we choose to participate, we become savvy very quickly, but you kind of have to throw yourself into the space and sort of be willing to not be good at it for a minute.
So that's us today. So next time we'll know a little bit more.
I think you're not giving yourself enough credit. I really want to give a lot of credit to Sue and to Shaquita and to Julie because, I mean, they I'm like, we're just going to do this. It's be fine. And it is, by the way. But this isn't a job skill that anybody told me I was going to need to develop when I was in graduate school.
Hey, April, can I just chime in here?
Yeah, I was actually about ready to chime you in.
Okay, well, I just have to tell you, Shaquita, it's so great to hear from you that people liked it and that they actually called you reaching out for help. That's totally awesome. You know, I work on a virtual team. I'm here in Vermont. I have teammates in Arizona and Washington, D.C. and Connecticut. We're all working on this, but sometimes it's really hard to get a sense. We have some numbers, but to really know the impact this is having, so to be able to see your faces and hear what's going on out there, it's awesome.
And as a matter of fact, you're also sort of watching our social media stream, sort of watching our back channel for us, right?
I'm trying, in my clunky novice sort of way, yes.
So tell us a little bit about what's happening on Twitter. I know we owe some shout outs to people. Oh, there's Karis, by the way. Karis, hi, I'm going to see you like Thursday at Carter. I'm so excited. I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to go see Karis in real life. Like, I'm flying out tomorrow. So if you could tell us a little bit about what folks are saying on Twitter and maybe answer some of those questions before we speak with Crystal next.
Sure. Well, Everyday Democracy is tweeting, and they're just sharing some good resources that we have. We're hearing from some other folks. We're hearing from Karis. Karis actually had a question. She wanted to know, how do we track whether people are actually doing the action ideas? And I wrote her back saying, Karis, I have no idea. So if you can help us figure that out, that would be great. So let's see. I think
I'm going to take a real quick pause because Karis is amazing. Karis is one of those people I've known on social media for like 3 years now, 3 or 4 years, and only got to meet her in person at a conference in April, and I'm going to see her at a conference this week. And she's actually going to be talking about social media and mental health policy, and she's fancy with SAMHSA, and she talks a lot about advocacy. So I would really encourage you to follow her on Twitter. She's an amazing human being, and if you ever get a chance to meet Advocacy Barbie, it's an honor.
And Karis is a great champion of Text Talk and Act, and we really appreciate it. Yeah.
And so, Karis, if you have great ideas about how we could start then tracking how people might take action on these, if we can give people action things to do in social media and ways to track or project that, I think that is a fabulous thing for you and I to be chatting about Friday in Hotlanta.
Oh, there you go.
Happily. And so we're very excited about that. What are some other things we're seeing on the stream?
We're seeing Sarah Kakador, I don't know who that is tweeting in. And,
hi, Sarah.
And Tim's doing some tweeting too because he's able to multitask much better than me. So that's what's going on. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from Crystal because she has been with Text Talk and Act since the very beginning.
Yes, and we're going to, so Crystal is sort of the end cap to this, and so I want to make sure that we answered other questions because I want Crystal to actually have some time here. We're bringing Crystal on. Crystal, you had a little difficulty with your lower third today, so we figured it out. Woo!
Here I am, millennial, rocking it. We have problems.
Crystal, can you tell us a little bit about who you represent, about who Active Minds is, and also how people can find you on Twitter?
Great, yeah. My name is Crystal, and I'm the president of Active Minds at Coppin State University. So you can follow us at ActiveMinds_CSU. Personally, I'm at Dame with a Brain.
Woo!
I'm not too good with Twitter, but I'm getting used to it. I like it. So at Active Minds at Coppin State, we're just trying to start the conversations on mental health and reduce the stigma of mental illness. Coppin State is a HBCU, which is a historically black college, and a lot of research, personally, which I've done with my professor, has shown that like African American students don't want to talk about mental illness.
What?
But what we've seen is that they do want to talk about mental illness. You just need to engage the talk. You have to start the conversation. So after starting the conversation, you'd be surprised. So many people were just coming out and talking about it and talking about the problems that they're dealing with, what they do to manage everything that they're going through. So you read research on paper that's just like, you know, students don't want to talk about mental illness, but you need the right approach to talk to students. So I think Text Talk Act, getting students like us millennials in our like zone, like, oh, you can text about it, and then you can also have that human communication. And that's what really does it and encourages people to talk about it and like just come out there and say, you know, this is the problem that I'm having. Oh, other people are going through this too, and then helping each other. So I think that's really great.
Let's go back to a couple of themes that you've mentioned. I'm really excited on hashtag SPSM. We're a weekly Twitter chat, and we have people who are really regular community members. We have a lot of stakeholders, including we have people who regularly discuss what it's like to be African American and have a mental health issue or to be suicidal, and how they go back to their communities where advocacy about culture and how it impacts how people get services, how people express their needs, and they sort of they work really, really hard to keep our community honest about that. And one of the things that they talk to me about a lot is that social media and digital media among the African American community is really important because there are a lot of really important digital networks, and they've been waiting for someone to just show up and invite them into the dialogue, and that there was this sort of, it wasn't that no one wanted to talk about it, it was a lack of invitation.
Exactly.
Is that what you're hearing?
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm hearing. You know, all this time you read about students, you know, not wanting to talk about it, but it's just you haven't engaged them in a way that they want to talk about it. And I think Text Talk Act and everything that we're doing with social media now is opening up the conversation to students and to people in general, and making them actually say, oh, well, you know, I wanted to talk about this whole time, and now I actually feel comfortable in talking about it.
So, I mean, in some respects, I feel like instead of us saying, oh, it's stigma that causes a problem, I feel like I kind of want to point the finger back at us. It sounds like, in fact, a lot of ways, the mental health thought leaders of our country kind of just didn't create the conditions for a good conversation until recently, and it kind of may be on us. You know, one of the reasons, Crystal, that you were invited on here, you're a two-time participant in Text Talk Act, and specifically, one of the things that Sue noted about you is that you've been really good at turning collectivism, and we'll talk about what that is, into in-real-life activism. And so I would love for you to talk about how you sort of blend being an advocate in the social media verse or in the technology or digital world, and then how it sort of transitions into face-to-face advocacy.
Okay, so one of the really good things that I'm really good at is Facebook. So when I was trying to get involved, I went on Facebook and I had the Text Talk Act and I shared it with like everybody that I thought may be involved and the people that I thought might not be involved, because at least they're seeing it. So that's the first thing I did, and then the next thing, I sent emails to everyone, because Some people still do check their emails. I check my email every morning. So I sent it out, and I used Sign Up Genius as well to get students involved. And what we did was we didn't just make it so students could just do it in their room, because we made it clear that students could talk about mental health in their room through Text Talk Act. But we also used something called Sign Up Genius that told students, oh, well, here are our advisors, and they're going to be at this location during this time. Would you like to go talk with them then? And then students signed up, knew where there were going to be conversations, and then went to those conversations. So using the social media, whereas students could sign up online or at least see where they could go online and then go, I think really, really worked well for us.
You mean you've actually blended several platforms. You're talking about using the digital platforms of email. You're talking about using Sign Up Genius. We're using text messaging, which also had then a YouTube platform component and other digital components, as well as a face-to-face component. And all of these are not, the technology is not the magic. The magic is that they facilitated a real interaction about a topic that mattered. And they just sort of facilitated it. But a bunch of them.
Exactly. And I think that the bunch, like all of the different platforms, is what really makes a difference, especially the face-to-face, because it gives off the correct feeling of we care about this issue, and we're not just going to let it go away. We're not just going to push it to the side. We want to do something about it.
And, I mean, you're actually a really passionate mental health advocate, and you're also a person with lived experience of mental health problems, correct?
Yes.
I mean, you have some skin in the game for us, like messaging our mental health leadership. Like, you're early in your life, and you have to live with the mental health system that folks who are at my stage in this process are building for you. And what do you think is important? Like, what is it that you want us to know about using technology, and what is it about the mental health advocacy that you would like for us to hear?
I'd just like for everybody to know that mental health advocacy is very important, because you never know who you're talking to. You could be talking to a student that does, or a person in general that really does have a mental health concern. So you need to open the conversation for them to talk to you about it, and if you're not a clinician, so you could pass them along to someone who can help them. So I think just opening the conversation is what everyone really needs to hear about mental health.
So you're saying, and I'm going to hopefully I'll sum this up correctly, but Crystal, what you're telling us is that more people in our community, not just clinicians, just need to learn some comfort with just being verbal about mental health needs, and then more people need to know sort of basic mental health first aid, which is once you've talked to me, I should know the basics about how to get you to somebody who is a professional in a safe and appropriate way.
Exactly, because like for me, when I was going, and it's an ongoing battle, when I was going through depression, as a 4.0 student, it didn't make sense to me, because I was supposed to be like in my prime, you know, like I'm successful, why am I so sad? So I went to one of my professors about it, who noticed that I was down, who noticed that, you know, I was having really, really bad anxiety, and I talked to him about it. And seeing as how he was my professor, he couldn't give me the counseling, but he could provide me that comforting environment where I was comfortable enough to come to somebody and tell them, I'm having a problem. And for him to be able to send me in the right direction of, okay, well, I understand that you're going through this, and I'm not going to judge you because I understand, but here is where you can go to get what you need to keep your life moving in the right direction. So
Absolutely.
It was very important for me to have that open conversation and be in a situation where I didn't feel judged. And I think that's why many people don't talk about mental illness, especially when we're seeing at my university with the African American community. We have the idea of like the strong black woman, or, you know, the man that can't cry. And I think we need to eliminate these stereotypes that people can't cry and they can't get help for their mental illnesses and mental health. You know, everyone has mental health, so everybody needs help at some point. So I think it's just important for us to talk about it more and know what we need to do to help our fellow human.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're basically saying is that what the technology does is it facilitates a big cultural conversation. that we all want to need to have. I mean, Tim is telling you, he says people can and do want to talk about their personal needs and wishes all the time. And if we can use our social media platforms collaboratively and in sort of coordinated way to let people have these conversations with people that they're also connected to, what we want to spread is a general comfort and a general sort of social script for when somebody comes to you, here's a general thing that they need for you to do. You don't have to save them. You don't have to fix it. You just simply need to be like, oh, I know what this is. It's okay. I'm not going to judge you. And here's how we're going to go get you what you need.
Exactly. I agree 100%. That's what we need to be doing.
You know, one of the things that I think social media does is it allows for people like you and Tim to have a really visible voice. It allows for you to be heard that this is the system that you need for me to be building. Because
I would agree, and you know, as Tim was saying, you know, it started for him in the Lady Gaga community, and everybody came out and started talking about it. For me, it started for me in my community on Tumblr, and I started talking to those people that I had general interest in, and we started sharing things with each other. So maybe it starts with just people feeling comfortable talking to you. So
that's wonderful. So I'm really, really grateful that Crystal, that you were here today. I'm really grateful that Tim is here today, so that like Sue and Shaquita and Jennifer and I can, I mean, our goal is to take what you're telling me today and make sure that I'm taking it to the folks who are building the system that you need, and making sure that they understand that that I can give them a YouTube link where they can see your face and hear your need and hear your voice. And that they can that they know where Tim is. And Tim, you have a regular vlog. I'm going to switch to Tim really quickly, right?
Yeah.
And what time is your vlog? So that if I wanted for people to see what this looks like every week, where could they go watch?
It's Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time at radioartpop.com/live. There won't be any new episodes in December though, because I need to remodel the show a bit for next year.
But they can go to your channel, like folks can go and look at your channel, right, and look at old episodes and get a real sense of what's happening, right?
Yes, and the YouTube channel is populove.net, D-O-T-net.
And we will figure out the best way for us to sort of expose folks who may not even really know Lady Gaga. I know that you're shocked by this, Tim.
Well, I'm not shocked at all, trust me.
And Miss Crystal, if people want to find you on Tumblr, or if they want to find you on Facebook or Twitter, and they want to talk with you about how you are engaging your community so that they can learn what works. Because the truth is, and this is just a little secret, Miss Crystal, there are very few people, there's no training for how to do this. There's no CEU for social media and mental health, let me tell you. So if they wanted to just contact you to learn what works, because you are the expert, you and Tim are the actual experts of this, how can they get a hold of you reliably?
I'm very reliable on my Facebook, which is Crystal Roach. And I'm also reliable through my Gmail account. And I'm starting up my Twitter again, so you can reach me through the Active Minds Twitter, which is just at @ActiveMinds_CSU, or at Dame with a Brain. And so I'm really glad you're here today. I'm going to bring on now Shaquita and Miss Jennifer. Jennifer, I keep fighting the urge to call you Julie, and I deeply apologize. I keep checking the paper so I don't do it wrong. So if I've been freaking out a little bit, a little anxious. But for Shaquita and Jennifer, what do you think, if people want to follow you and to engage you, like, for the really practical advice of how do we transform our organizations or organizational leadership so that we can incorporate these, what is the best way for them to connect with you and get good advice from you?
For me, it would be through Georgia Empowerment. You can Google us. We are Georgia Empowerment. We are on Facebook and we are on Twitter. And our website is www.georgiaempowerment.org. And so you can find us that way.
And we want to definitely stay in touch because, I mean, I hate to tell y'all, but like we're the experts. There aren't that many of us who are doing this, who are willing to talk about how it works. And speaking of that, I want to close here, bringing our tour de force here, Sue McCormick, to really talk a little bit about what she's noticed here. She's been sort of monitoring our Twitter feed, and she's also, heard some of the themes we're talking about. Tell us a little bit about what you noticed while we were talking.
Well, I noticed I'm just feeling fantastic right now, I have to say, because this is a really new thing, and none of us knew how it was going to work. We've grown it every time we've done it. We're hoping if we can get the funding to do it again in the spring and grow it even more. And hearing from Crystal about you know, her experience with this, it just fits with other stories we've heard. We've heard that people are so shocked that their friends are dealing with mental health challenges. They didn't even have a clue their friends are successful, and it's just such a different conversation that they haven't had. And so to hear echoes of that sentiment, that surprise that people get when they actually have the conversation, has been really interesting. The other thing that I'm really aware of is how much elbow grease it takes and how much leadership it takes for people to get folks from social media into a room together. And I would love to talk to Tim more about this, because I don't know, he might have a really different view than me. But it seems to me that when you get in that room together and you're together and you make these commitments, that maybe you have a different feeling about keeping those commitments, especially when it takes some courage and patience and acceptance and all of those things. So I'm just feeling really inspired. I got to go tomorrow and write up a proposal with my colleagues for the next round, so I'm going to, you know, think of what you guys have been saying. To the young people that have been doing this, I hope that they're going to keep, you know, creating media. They're going to keep taking a leadership role. They're going to keep doing their advocacy work. To all of us, the adults, I hope we can work with young people and support them and really make sure that they have the systems in place that they need to be healthy and happy and continue to let their voice be heard and be as effective as they can. So I'm totally jazzed up.
So if you were going to say, like, what do you think is the big take-home message for our millennials who are watching, as they're watching this Text Talk Act? What is it that you want them to take away from this?
I want them to go on Text Talk Act and click at the bottom of the page on the resources, and there are a bunch of resources there for people to get trained, to do mental health first aid, to be advocates. There's some great resources from Everyday Democracy. There's a really powerful movie that was made with a discussion guide. So I encourage young people to really be leaders and take advantage of the resources that we've curated for them, and keep going, keep letting your voice be heard, and stay in touch with us at Creating Community Solutions and Text Talk and Act.
And if you were going to be speaking to people who are leaders in mental health policy and who really set the tone for how we really create the mental health system that we believe our nation deserves, and I mean, Karis and I are going to be chatting with those people this week. What do you want them to take home from this?
Well, the first thing I want them to take home is that old saying, not about us without us. The young people that I have come into contact with are amazing leaders. I mean, I have so much faith in them, and so I really want young people to be in the room when policy decisions are getting made. And then also that through Creating Community Solutions, we've had hundreds of conversations around the country. Some really clear themes have emerged. I hope policymakers will look at those themes and pay attention to them and make sure that they're reflected in their decision making.
So you want us to include this is what Tim and Crystal are telling us, is that they are ready to participate, they're waiting to be invited, and that we have to set up we use technology to facilitate or set up the circumstances where they have a voice, and then we need to take that seriously and build a good system, because people like Tim and Crystal have skin in the game, and they deserve to have a voice in the system that they're going to be living with for the rest of their life.
And the one other thing I would like to say to all of us is we need to find ways. One of the things we heard from Text Talk and ACT participants is we want to connect better to each other across all these conversations. So we need to find really good ways to connect people. We've had people in all 50 states participate. How are we going to connect them together so that they can support each other in all these wonderful actions they're taking?
It has been an absolute pleasure. There we go. It's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to shout out to my folks who I know are watching, and of course to the people who are going to be seeing this when it's not live. I'm grateful for the hour that you've spent with us. Please follow the hashtag TextTalkAct. And also, if you follow the hashtag SPSM for Suicide Prevention Social Media, which is very active, we're going to continue to keep content in that feed that lets you know how to get in touch with these folks. Find us on our Twitter handles, our Facebook, find us at our Gmail or our websites, so that we can continue to support our mental health community in connecting with each other and building the system that we deserve. And thank you.
Yeah.